My name is Avery Coleman. I never imagined I'd come home to find my own sister planning to take everything from our mother, and from me, quietly, legally, without ever raising her voice. I've served my country, I've faced danger, but nothing prepared me for the kind of betrayal that wears a familiar face and calls itself family. This isn't a story of shouting or revenge. It's a story of how I learned to stand up, not with anger, but with truth. Because sometimes the deepest wounds are the ones signed in ink, not blood. I didn't expect the first warning to come from a stranger holding my sister's phone, a phone I had carried in my pocket 1,000 times before. Caleb's tech repair and coffee smelled like warm beans and old solder, the kind of place where radios whisper and people lower their voices without thinking. I handed over Madison's phone with the screen spidered from a sink drop and tried to make a joke about how she'd keep using it until it drew blood. Caleb, square shoulders, ex-Marine posture softened by a barista's apron, didn't laugh. He nodded, asked for the passcode, and his fingers went to work with a calm that felt like a metronome. Madison had thrust the phone into my hand that morning, eyes bright but slippery, the way a magician smiles while palming a coin. "Can you just take it? I'm late," she'd said, already backing toward the door. My mother, Diane, had called out from the kitchen not to rush breakfast. The toast went cold. While I waited, I glanced at the bulletin board. Flyers for lawn care, a church rummage sale, a missing tabby named Cinnamon, and tried not to replay how Madison had flinched when I asked to see her lock screen. She used to grin and shove the phone at me. Lately, she'd hugged it like a secret. Caleb cleared his throat. He'd pulled up a recovery pane I'd seen 100 times in the army, but never in a coffee shop. Cached PDFs, unsent drafts, logs. His voice came out quiet enough to matter. "If this is your sister's phone, you need to cancel the cards, and you need to replace the locks, tonight." For half a breath, the room shrank. I stared at the words he'd recovered: guardianship request, beneficiary changes, appointment entries tagged with a name I didn't know, and heard my pulse in my ears. Outside, Charlotte moved like it always does, a bus sighing at the curb, a stroller wheel wrapping a crack in the sidewalk. When I stepped into the light, the bell over the door jingled like nothing in the world had shifted. Across the street, Madison laughed with a neighbor, head tilted, hand to her belly the way she does when she's pleased with herself. Ordinary, bright, untouchable. That laugh yanked up a memory I hadn't touched in years. I was 10, face burning where two boys had shoved me against a fence. Madison, 13, furious, stood between us and told them to pick on someone who could fight back. I'd worshipped her then, the fierce older sister who could turn a playground into a courtroom by sheer will. Seeing her now, haloed in sun as if she'd never heard the word forgery, I felt the ground tip under my boots. I drove to my mother's house with the screen captures burning cold in my pocket. Inside, the living room was dim, photographs glowing in their frames, birthdays, graduations, the three of us shoulder to shoulder. Diane poured tea and asked if Madison would stay for dinner. I said maybe. I didn't say that Anna at the bank would be hearing from me within the hour, or that I would change the deadbolt on the back door before nightfall. I didn't say the part where I was afraid. On the porch, cicadas stitched the air together. I opened the call log Caleb had recovered and scrolled, breath held, as if I could stop the list from forming its pattern by refusing to exhale. Names rose and fell in short tides. Then one stayed. Ethan Marlowe. Some wounds don't come from fists or knives. Some wounds come printed on legal paper with signatures that aren't real. Diane's living room held its breath with us. The television was off, a black pane catching three faint silhouettes. My mother in her cardigan, Madison curled cat-like on the edge of the sofa, and me on the rug with a stack of manila folders that smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. I told myself I was only organizing, only helping. But my fingers already knew where to look. The bottom of the pile where people hide things they don't want to find again. The first document sliced, guardianship petition, neatly filled. The second one burned, cognitive competency evaluation, Dr. Harold Layton, Suite 240. The signature looked like a perfect imitation of speed and authority. I swallowed and kept my voice low, a tone you use in hospitals and war zones. Mom, why didn't you tell me someone was helping you with your finances? Diane's eyes flickered then slid away. That silence had edges. Across from me, Madison didn't blink. She smiled like a hostess smoothing a tablecloth. Avery, you're tired. You've been away too long. She reached for the papers and tapped them into a tidy stack. Let me take care of her now. The room felt colder. I photographed every page. Madison watched with a soft expression that said she'd already won, that I was being impolite to doubt the shape of her kindness. In the car, night pressed against the windshield, and the air bit at my lungs. I called Tyler Brooks, a quiet attorney whose patience I trusted. I read the header, the suite, the license number. If that signature is forged, that's not just betrayal, he said, each word precise. That's a crime. Verify the office first. Don't confront, document. So I drove to a medical plaza lit like an empty aquarium. The directory glowed blue, 200 212 to the left, 214 238 to the right. No 240. Still, I walked the carpeted hall, counting doors, until the corridor dead-ended at a beige door marked 204, Supply. No one answered when I knocked. A custodian passed with a squeaky cart and shrugged. There's no 240 on this floor, never has been. Everything was fake, down to the ghost of a suite that didn't exist. Back in the car, I could feel the paper cuts blooming at my fingertips, tiny, invisible wounds that learned your pulse and kept time with it. I replayed Madison's smile. I replayed Mom's silence. I replayed the way the black screen at home had captured us like a family portrait no one would frame. I emailed Tyler the photos, added notes, dates, the custodian's comment, the directory board. Then I drove aimlessly through neighborhoods of dark windows and porch lights left burning for no one. My breath fogged the steering wheel. My mind sharpened around the edges of fear until it clicked into focus. There was a plan, and I wasn't at the center of it. I was an obstacle on the perimeter. My phone vibrated once. A text arrives from an unknown number. Stop digging. No punctuation, no threats, just certainty. I have shed blood for the right to stand in my own name. I didn't expect my own sister to use that name as a weapon. The kitchen table had always been neutral ground, Sunday breakfasts, birthday candles, bills spread out in quiet cooperation. But now the warm light felt like stage lighting, too bright, too revealing. Madison placed a neat stack of papers in the center, aligning them with the edge of the wood as if symmetry could excuse the cruelty. Emergency guardianship is just temporary, she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. Until things stabilize. She didn't have to say until Avery is removed. The wording was already printed. Diane sat beside her, hands folded, shoulders curled inward. She looked between us the way someone watches two waves move toward collision. I could see her breathing shallow. She already knew something was wrong. But fear is a powerful glue. And peace, even artificial peace, is addictive. Madison slid a pen toward Diane. Mom, you saw how tired Avery has been. The nightmares, the way she startles. She needs rest. Let me handle things. Those were my stories to carry. My scars to fold into silence. My service had been something she once bragged about to strangers. Now it was leverage. Diane's fingers trembled. Madison's hand came down lightly over hers, guiding, like shepherding a child to write her name for the first time. The signature bloomed in slow ink. I felt it like a blade that didn't pierce skin, only something deeper. Ethan Marlowe's office didn't try to impress. It tried to erase. White walls, white orchids, matte black frames containing certificates arranged with monk-like precision. His suit was the same. Quiet, expensive, invisible. He greeted me with the warmth of a therapist and the certainty of a man who thinks he owns the shape of the room. Families need structure, he said, folding his hands. Your service is admirable, truly, but trauma rewrites judgment. Madison is only trying to protect your mother. I listened. I nodded. I let him think I had come to be tamed. My phone, angled just so, captured every word. He never asked why I didn't argue. Predators expect fear, not calculus. In the parking lot, the night cut sharp. I sat in my truck, breath fogging the cabin glass. My pulse slowed into something steady, measured, tactical. The plan assembled itself the way muscle memory returns. Back up Madison's phone metadata. Caleb could run silent extraction. Trace appointment logs. Someone had scheduled them. Someone had billed. Handwriting comparison. Dr. Layton's signature wouldn't match. Forged confidence always reveals itself under scrutiny. Anger didn't guide me. Discipline did. Then the notification came. Temporary suspension pending psychological review. They went for the foundation. My service, my identity. The thing no one was supposed to touch. For a moment, the world narrowed to the sound of crickets and the low hum of a streetlight. But I did not break. I had been trained to endure until the storm drowned itself. When I returned home, Diane was waiting in the hallway, hands clasped as if in prayer. Her voice, when it came, was soft, pleading, almost breaking. Avery, please don't make this harder. I realize, my mother believes Madison, for now. Not every battle needs shouting. Some victories are built in silence and sprung like traps. The cafe by the lake always smelled of vanilla steam and wet pine, a place where people spoke softly, where water muted everything. I chose it for that reason. Madison arrived with two wide eyes and a smile pulled tight like thread about to snap. Ethan came moments later, crisp collar, polished watch, the calm of a man who believes he has already won. We sat. The recorder stayed face down beneath my palm, already running. I stirred my coffee once, slowly. If the doctor's report is valid, I asked, tone weightless, almost idle, why meet somewhere off record? Madison's breath broke. Not a gasp, just a tiny misstep in rhythm. Ethan recovered before she could. Because some conversations, he said, smoothing his tie, are best handled privately. Judges appreciate families who manage their conflicts without spectacle. A reasonable answer, if you weren't listening to the speed of his heartbeat in the stillness. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply let the quiet press against them like deep water. People will tell you everything when they are trying to fill silence. They did. When we parted, I smiled like someone agreeing to terms. They believed silence meant surrender. Silence was the trap. Night settled itself thick over the house. I waited in Diane's garage, concrete cool beneath my boots, the air faintly metallic. I had changed the locks days ago. I had installed the cameras. Caleb had configured the live backup. No heroics, just preparation. The side door eased open. Madison entered first, a paper bag hidden behind her leg. Ethan followed, scanning the ceiling, the outlets, the shadows, except the right ones. Just turn on the car, Madison whispered. 10 minutes and we're done. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with urgency, the kind that comes from believing the finish line is inches away. I stepped forward just enough that my shadow cut across the floor. You planned it cleanly, I said. Cleaner than the forged forms, but you didn't plan for new locks. Ethan froze. Madison's hand tightened around the bag. Diane's voice drifted from the kitchen doorway, confused and breaking at the edges. Madison, what are you doing? She didn't step inside. She saw enough from where she stood. Caleb's text hit my phone at the same moment blue-white headlights washed against the garage door. The officers were already in position. He had given them the timestamps. The evidence. The motive. No need for speeches. No need for accusations. The first officer's voice was flat, practiced. Hands where I can see them. Madison's face twisted. Not in guilt, but in pure fury that the world was not bending the way she wanted. Ethan attempted a step back, calculated, rehearsed, but the second officer was faster. I looked at them, steady, breathing even. You didn't have to do this, I said. You could have just asked for help. Madison's eyes locked onto mine. There was no shame there, just the raw, bitter knowledge that I had survived her. Handcuffs click. Ethan tries to run. He fails. Madison turns to me and whispers, "This isn't over." Some battles don't end with shouting or victory speeches. Some battles end in silence, the kind that forces you to live with what remains. Fluorescent lights hummed over polished floors, as if the courthouse had a heartbeat of its own. I sat straight, palms dry, the folder on my lap heavier than steel. When our case was called, Tyler rose first, measured voice, clean steps, and laid out the order of truth. The audio from the cafe played, clinks of porcelain, then Ethan's varnished calm unraveling into implication. The garage footage followed. The door, the heater, the timing. No drama, just intent. Dr. Royce's signature was compared to the real one on file. The differences glared like bruises. Ethan didn't posture. He asked for a recess and came back smaller. A plea deal. Emails surrendered. In them, Madison wasn't a passenger. She was the engine. The judge's face stayed neutral, but the room shifted, like a window opening in stale air. Diane's autonomy was restored. Every claim against me was dismissed. The gavel was a single exact sound. Madison didn't cry. She stared at the table, shoulders rounded, as if the wood itself had told her no. When we stepped outside, the sky was a hard blue, the wind busy with things it would never say. We stood by the concrete planters, the city moving around us. "You always had a place in this family. I never did. I just wanted one. You did. You just couldn't see it without taking something from me." No yelling, no blame, just the thin, painful edge of truth. We didn't hug. We didn't turn away either. We stood there until the wind decided it was time to move us. At home, the kettle sang a thin note, and Diane's hands trembled as she poured. The kitchen smelled like lemon soap and old, clean wood. She stared into her cup. I should have seen what she was becoming. I didn't want to. Wanting peace is not the same as keeping it. We let the steam rise and fade. The quiet didn't accuse us, it held us up. At dusk, Caleb pulled to the curb. No speeches, no tidy bows. The ride to base was a ribbon of asphalt and unspectacular sky. We talked about nothing in particular, the good coffee spot near the armory, how Bailey hates the vacuum. At the gate, he looked at me with that steady, ex-Marine unflinching. "You didn't lose. You survived." Survival is its own kind of victory. I signed back in under white floodlights that turned the gravel bright as bone. The corridor smelled like wax and paper, ordinary as breath. I walked toward my duty station, not the same woman who left. I wasn't running from home. I was returning to myself. I've learned that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones no one sees. If you've walked through betrayal, silence, or the kind of pain that hides under everyday life, I hope my story speaks to you. I didn't win because I was stronger. I won because I refused to disappear. If you felt something, I'd ask you to share your thoughts with me. Tell me what you would have done, or what you've survived. Your voice matters. And if life ever forces you to choose between peace and truth, remember, real peace can only grow where truth is allowed to stand.